Hi everyone, I'm trading the ES and NQ futures, starting off with the ES here. So this is our overnight high up here and our overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is this area right here, this little range. And notice that we have this measured move right here. This is an up measured move, price pushed on through, almost like it wasn't even there. It did have a little reaction after it pushed through. It had a little retest of it, but it basically just blasted on through. And then when we started finding resistance here, this forms our overnight high. And so we end up pushing on out right here, push through. And now when you break out of an overnight level or a range level, you want to wait for 2 attempts to fade before buying the breakout. You don't want to just buy it because it's pushing out. Now, when we push up here, you can see first attempt lower, second attempt lower. It's a second entry long. It's off the EMA. It wicked onto the EMA, reached the overnight high. So it's a retest. Now the second leg down, it's clearly just going sideways right here. It went choppy, and then that second leg is just within the width of that chop. Now, even though it is still 2 legs down, it's just not a perfect setup. It's not a good retest. If we push out of an overnight level, like at first, like I was saying, it was extremely bullish, pushing on through this measured move level. But when we pushed out of the overnight level, it wasn't able to blast off that much. It just kind of got choppy after it pushed through. And so whenever price is chopping, that's telling you that it's just a fight between the bulls and the bears. The bears want to fade, the bulls want to break out. And we didn't get 2 clear retests. We ended up just going sideways, so it's not clear which side is winning. So that's why I don't like this trade right here for a long, but it does have some, after it triggers, it obviously has some bullish reaction, but it doesn't last very long. It ends up pushing on down right as it reaches that previous high. And then we get this, another retest of the overnight high. Now, we've made a count reset at this point. It's a double top with the wicks, but with the bodies, it's, higher. So I just view this as a reset. After that second entry, price attempted to go up, and then it just made a new high, and then immediately pushed back down. Now, here we only have 1 leg retesting, because even though we had these couple legs down, we're already retesting it, we need another set of 2 legs retesting. Now, on a bigger picture, 2 legs will become 1 leg, you combine the legs, but in this case here, since we have that reset, we can't view this as a 2-legged move down starting from here. So it's just too risky to take a first entry. It also could barely get back above the EMA right there, so I don't like going long there, but it does end up pushing higher. Whoops, didn't mean to grab that. And so it ends up pushing higher anyway, but it's still not a good long in my view. So anyway, we push on up, we reach these highs right here. It's clearly forming this range, just going sideways right on top of the overnight level. And we start to push down, we get a clear first attempt to fade, and then a second attempt. So ideally, what I would have liked to see is one, price push up a bit more, and then get 2 legs down, retesting where the first leg doesn't touch it. Like on this one, you're already fading back in on that first leg, and then it pushes back out and starts the second leg, which makes it pretty hard to get a clean 2-legged move, like on the measured move, a trade right there, because it's already pushing through on the first leg. And so at this point here, obviously this down measured move is still in play, which is not ideal for, a retest, because, price could easily, you're at a fade level. You're at an area where it's common to reverse back down. You have your 2 legs up. You're at the overnight level. It's common to fade back down, so you don't want to have an active measured move right there. And so I did not like going long here, because when it held here, one, it didn't get above the EMA. If it got above the EMA, then it wouldn't have to push through it. The EMA acts like a resistance level. And so I didn't want to combine that with the fact that this measured move is still in play at a fade area. So I didn't like this right here. It ended up just going sideways for a bit, trying to get through the EMA before finally pushing up to the high. And then, ultimately there's just nothing in this range right here that's good. And so anyway, we push on lower here, we get this leg down, it has a couple attempts higher before pushing lower. So right here, it forms a failed second entry. It's a little bit hard to see, and it's not a good trade by any means, but starting from this high right here, we have first entry long, and then second entry long failure. And so that does push it into a second leg down. So you have this first leg down, and then break, and then second leg down. And then you get a retest of that measured move level. It barely reaches it. Let me just extend it. It barely reached it, or it might have missed it by a tick, but the point is it's clearly a retest of this measured move level. And so price pushes on higher here. Now at this point, it's not a good long. You don't want to enter that right into the EMA. It hasn't been, in play for a while anyway. So considering we just faded the overnight, which is a big deal. When you come off one side of a overnight or a range, you can expect price to attempt to reach the other side. And so taking this below the EMA, it's not like a super clear resistance level that had previously just pushed on through it like it wasn't there. I would not bet on it just pushing on higher there. So, sometimes the market will, move without you and you just got to sit on your hands, but that's just part of trading. So it's not like you missed anything at this point. It's just, there wasn't anything good yet. You don't take anything. And so anyway, we push on up here. We break out of the overnight again. This time we actually push through that previous, chop level. And so we push on through. This would be a great place to get two legs retesting, because if you push down from there, let me just grab this. If you get a couple legs down, this is a failed second entry. So starting from here, we have first entry short, and then second entry short on the push up, and then failure, because it's a failed second entry. Oh, sorry, I keep grabbing these things I don't mean to grab. So it's because the point is it's a failed second entry holding on top of the overnight high after a clear breakout. And on that failed second entry with those two legs down, those are your two attempts to fade. So it has confluence all the way around. But, it doesn't happen. It just continues on higher. You get this small correction that doesn't even reach the EMA, and it just pushes on higher. So really nothing there. Clearly it's a two-legged move up though. So uptrend, break, new high, and then price attempts to reverse right here. But it was just unable to get through this EMA. Excuse me. So after that push lower here, price pushed back above, had a couple more attempts that held above both times. The uptrend, we can expect price to attempt a new high. It formed from here a failed second entry, first entry short, second entry short, failure, holding above the EMA. So I like this right here. Now, what would have been really nice to see is a big picture failed second entry, but sometimes you're not going to get that. So let me just extend this. I'm going to remove that just to unclutter it. So if we had gotten something like this, a big picture failed second entry, it wouldn't matter if you have it on the smaller picture like we do here. We could have gotten a much larger trade than right here. It could have, because it's just a bigger picture trade, therefore the target and stop will be bigger and you can look for a bigger trade. But in this case here, we don't get the big picture setup. We have to take this smaller setup, but we're using the momentum from this larger trend. So uptrend, break, we're expecting a new high. It formed a failed second entry, it's holding above, so I like that long right there. Now, anyway, we push on up here, we make the new high. So at this point, the uptrend is considered to be played out because it has a break and a new high. And so price attempts to reverse. This is a great place for a reversal pattern, a failed second entry. Price could do this, push below, get a couple attempts back, and then you can look for a short because you'd have first entry long, second entry long, failure, and you can look to get in on the second leg down on the reversal. But it quickly ends up pushing on higher. This is just, a likely possibility, a common thing to happen at, because again, you're still just pushed out of the overnight high. Even though you had this good push out and then you push up and make the new high, it's not like it's taken off completely. It still has the capacity to fade back in. And so this would be a great place for that reversal. But instead, we end up making this higher low right here. I don't like this higher low for a long because, again, even though we just pushed out of the overnight high and things are looking bullish and it's pushing back above the EMA after the reversal attempt, it's still not good enough because, again, this is a reversal area. The uptrend just played out. You only have one attempt to reverse, and then this little push right here is your second attempt to reverse. So the chances of it continuing lower are just too high. Even though, again, it is getting bullish overall, it's still the chance of a reversal is still too high to take that higher low. So I would want to see, before a long, I would want to see another clear attempt down, not just a little tick lower, a little wick lower, holding on to the EMA. It's really just, this is not a good enough second leg, this little wick right here. So anyway, that's why I don't like that right there. Anyway, we do continue on higher though. We're starting to go into this wider channel. We can start to draw these lows right here. It's pretty clear we're going into a channel after we push up right there. And then at first we have the highs right here and then it overshoots. But when price overshoots and then it doesn't, break out the other side, or at least move to the other side of the channel, and it just continues overshooting in that area, then that's when you want to look to extend the trend line, because it's more likely that the channel is just extending. And so that's what I do here. It ends up fitting pretty well, but we only get these first entries. So like right here, that's a first entry, just a first entry again right here, because it has that count reset, another count reset, and then we go into this trend right here. Now we make this triple bottom, but we don't get anything clear off of it. We have this push up right here, but we again have that count reset and only one leg down. It's clearly just one channel down right there. I don't care that it has a couple legs right there and then a third leg. That's just one leg on a bigger picture. So anyway, we continue on higher here, and then we break out the high of this range. We're clearly going into a range. We have these lows, the highs fit reasonably well, and we push out and then immediately start fading back in, although it gets very choppy when doing so. And so basically at this point, price has been bullish for quite a while, but it's clearly finding some resistance over here. And that's why it's so choppy, because the bulls, they see the trend, it's continuing up. The bears see resistance right here. Now you can take shorts in an uptrend. It's generally, if you don't have experience, you should probably just avoid counter trend trading. You can't do it to like an extreme level, but at this point we're clearly stalling right here. We're forming this range, and then we make a reversal pattern. Starting from here, we have first entry long, second entry long, failure, clearly holding below these lows. I only liked it after this red bar here, because this red bar was holding above the EMA, not perfect for a reversal, but the reversal was still clear. It was kind of sideways, but at least the legs are clearly separated, and you can still see that it's a reversal pattern. But yeah, I like that with a limit order. Came back after triggering from this bar right here, push up, and then plummeted on down for that reversal. Now, obviously, you would need to keep if you're entering like this, you need to keep your target within the trend. And also, in this case, we have a range, so you have to keep it within that as well. And I know I could have, likely pushed it a little further, because I usually don't mind pushing targets out of a structure a couple ticks, but in this case here, considering how choppy it was, I wasn't willing to do that. And so that's why it's fully within, and not trying to push it out a few ticks like that or anything. If this was with the trend overall and we got an opposite setup, then I wouldn't mind pushing it through a trend line a little bit, but in this case here, it's just not worth doing that. You have to be careful when taking trades like that, because we've been bullish overall today. So anyway, we break right here. This uptrend, clearly valid, has a break, and then price starts pushing up to a new high. Now notice right here, we're off of this wider trend line. We have the first two bounces here, and now we're having a good reaction off of it. Now, what would have been nice to see is, starting from the top, is two clear big legs down retesting. That way we can look for a long, but instead we really only get one leg down. Now from here, some might see this as, first leg and then break, second leg. Really, it just got choppy before pushing lower. This is really just one leg down. And so we have one leg pushing to the trend line. And then it got very choppy at the trend line. It's really just not good for a long. It could push up a little bit and then start to form a second leg down and make a measured move down to break this wider uptrend. So that's why I don't like going long right there. But it does end up pushing up, doing pretty well. You could get a failed second entry after getting above the EMA and get a long, but it doesn't happen here. It just pushes it up straight to that high, finds resistance at it, immediately starts pushing lower, and then we get a break. So at this point here, this uptrend has a break, and we can expect price to attempt a new high. Now, when we start pushing up here, it wasn't a huge break. It was, clearly significant. Like, you can clearly tell the channel got a break, but it's common to get bigger picture breaks after the initial attempt at a new high. So let me elaborate on that. So we push up here, we make the new high. Now, when an uptrend has a break and a new high, it's considered played out. So at this point here, after it has the new high, it's played out, and that you can expect price to attempt to reverse. And that's when it gets into this trade here. And so I don't like it at first. I only liked it after it closed below the EMA, because so you see here, we have this lower high. It pushed off the EMA right there, and then after it pushed below, that's when I liked it here, because on a bigger picture, this break to new high isn't that significant. And after an attempted reversal, that's when you'll often get the bigger picture break. And that's exactly what happens here. After price attempts to reverse from the trend playing out, it stalls at this previous low, and then you can clearly tell that if you just zoom out a bit, this break to new high is not very significant. It's all just part of the same uptrend, and this reversal attempt is the bigger picture break, and then you have your first attempt higher right here, second attempt at a new high here, and then it makes the new high. So, this is just price action levels getting bigger picture in real time. It can be confusing at first, but just, a quick overview of that again. So the uptrend had a break, push to a new high, and then price is attempting to reverse, because that's what price does when trends play out. And then when it's reversing, it doesn't fully reverse. It ends up finding support again, and at that point, when it finds support and stops reversing, that's when it becomes just the bigger picture break, and then you get these attempts at a new high here. So anyway, either way, at this point, it is considered played out, so it's valid to look for a reversal. Clear highs right here, perfect measured move. This measured move right here was absolutely perfect, had a very bearish push off of it, and then we got below the EMA, and so I like this trade right here. We still had this measured move, down measured move in play, had to push it through a little bit, but, clearly this trend was stalling, started forming very clear resistance. You had to be able to switch gears. And so anyway, we push on down here. Now we have this downtrend, and after we start to push up, it's a break, so downtrend break, you can expect price to attempt a new low, but it just continues all the way up to the other side of the range again. And when we push up here, again, bigger picture, the price action getting bigger picture in real time. This is just the break. You have your first attempt at a new high, but you still have to consider that this is a downtrend here. So after it starts pushing lower here, you have this downtrend break, and then first attempt at a new low, and almost reaches it. But ideally, what I really like to see is after this push up here is a second attempt at a new low. So something like this, which there's a lot of arrows on here. Let me just unclutter this a bit. So what I would have liked to see is downtrend break, first attempt lower, and then after a push up, a second attempt lower, and then even if it doesn't reach the measured move, the two attempts at a new low would be enough. You can get a long off of this resistance down here. Clearly there's some resistance down here. The downtrend would have two attempts at a new low, likely a new low if it goes all the way down and reaches it, and then you can look for a long. But it just doesn't occur that way. It ends up just pushing on up after that first attempt and then just taking off without us really no way to get in on it. Now, at this point here, notice how if it does continue up here and doesn't make that second leg down, and it goes all the way back up, makes a new high, reaches the upper trend line of this range, then if you get a good bearish reaction, you can look to get in on a short for a big picture failed second entry. So let me just draw that out here. So again, this measured move at this point is met right at this high. If you get a bearish push off of it, then you can treat it as, starting from here, first entry long, second entry long, failure, and you can look to get in on the second leg down. But it ends up just rocketing off, and just taking off without us. So now it's starting to get choppy. We'll see what happens from here. But yeah, that's going to be it for the ES. I'm going to hop over to the NQ now and go over that. So here's the NQ. The NQ and the ES, they'll oftentimes look very, very similar. Sometimes they'll look a little different on some days. Some days they'll look very close. And so yeah, anyway, let's just get into this. Both days were very much up, obviously. And so starting off, again, I started trading at 8 Central Time. This area right here, it had a similar looking range around the overnight high. And so anyway, we push on out here. Now on the NQ here, the measured move is outside of the overnight high. It was the opposite on the ES. The overnight high was above the opening measured move for the day. But anyway, it's very similar places. We push on out. We reach the measured move. When your measured move is met, again, you can expect price to find resistance, attempt to reverse, and especially at an overnight level, you can expect price to attempt to reverse. Now, it gets pretty choppy here, but you can still see there's a couple legs down. Now, after these couple legs down and we've faded back in, we get 2 attempts higher. So at this point right here, right when price starts pushing up here, that is price reacting to this measured move right here. And so after the measured move is met, we can, let me just draw this out really quick, this resistance, so I can remove the arrow line really quick. Sorry about that. So 2 legs down right here, we find the resistance right there, and then after price reaches the measured move, we have first attempt to reverse and then second attempt. So we have these 2 legs up right here, retesting the overnight high with a good bearish reaction, pushing below the EMA. It's the 4th bounce off this trend line right here. This trade looks great for a short. We're fading back into the overnight high, again pushing off this major measured move right here. So I really like this trade right here. Now we push on lower here and we overshoot this downtrend. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks, and if they don't lead to breaks, then they often just lead to very sharp spikes to the other side of the channel. But in this case here, price pushes on out of the other side of the channel without even barely reacting to it. Had a small reaction before just blasting out. And then we break out of the overnight high again. Breakout again. This is a great area to see 2 legs back, retesting it, forming a big failed second entry. If we could have just got something like this, then yeah, so starting from here, first entry short, second entry short, failure, retesting the overnight high, expecting a new high for this uptrend. That is a great area to look for a trade like that, but it just doesn't happen. After the break, it just continues on up. So now we have, sorry about this, I can't ever grab the things I want to grab. So anyway, we push on up here. After the break, it immediately pushes up to a new high. No clear trades on the way up. At this point, it's just, at this point, it doesn't even reach the EMA. It doesn't reach the EMA again. And then here you just get a first entry, and then it barely picks up. This is not really a second entry. I see there's a push down, a break, push back up, and then another push back down. But this is not a clear 2-legged move. This is just 1 leg down, and then it goes sideways. So anyway, we push on up right here. We're starting to go into this wider channel here, and then as we continue up, what we would like to see is 2 clear legs to the other side for a long, but instead what we get is just this first entry here, and then another first entry, push on up, and then we get a sharp push down. It's already breaking the channel, so we don't get any clear trades right here. It forms this little second entry. It's not off of anything. It's making a double bottom right there, but when it's just forming it initially, that's not good enough to actually take a trade off of it. Especially after a very sharp bearish move like that anyway. It's just not a clear enough support level. And so anyway, push on up here. We break out of this right here. After it pushes up there, that's when it's clear there's some kind of support, and drag it to the other side. We have this range now. And then we break out the high. Now here, this is the same area as, I'm going to hop back to the ES really quick just to show. So notice here you have, I'm going to draw it out really quick. You have a failed second entry. It's a little more choppy than on the ES. Like on the ES here, notice the legs are just a lot more clear. So clear leg down, clear leg up, leg down, leg up. But on the NQ, it's just not as clear. It's more choppy. It doesn't look as good. I was just focused on the ES at this point anyway, but on the NQ, it really just doesn't look very good. So when you get this bar here, obviously it's not a good bar, but it is closing below the EMA. I only liked it on the other one after I got the bar that was pushing lower, and it was clear that price was starting to push down a little more. But here we do get another bar that's more bearish than this one, but it's just reacting right off those lows. I think it looks all right with a limit order, as long as you can get out before this low right here. In the other case, in the ES, we had this uptrend to worry about. In this case here, we actually don't. The uptrend has a small break, push to a new high, immediately pushes into the reversal pattern. But overall, I think it looks good enough to take, but it does look very choppy. You just got to get used to actually seeing the legs through the chop. There is a point where it can be too choppy completely, that you just got to completely not take it. But, you just got to be careful. And also one thing I want to mention, which I actually almost skipped over this on the ES, which is after these legs right here, you got that attempted reversal. When it failed to reverse and ended up pushing higher, you get bigger picture legs up. And so we still have these 2 bigger legs up right here, common to reverse after 2 legs. You get the reversal pattern. It looks good as long as you stay within this range right here. You absolutely cannot push it out at all. And again, like I was mentioning on the other one, how I didn't want to push it through the resistance level, you absolutely would not want to do that here either. And so anyway, we push on lower here. Notice that we have this wider uptrend right here. Price is going down to the trend line, but it doesn't quite reach it here. It just starts getting choppy. After this push down, we have a break, attempt at a new low, but it's really just going sideways, kind of getting choppy there. And then we suddenly push up, and then here, notice we have, starting from here, first leg down. Even though there's a bunch of legs in here, on a bigger picture, it's just one leg down. Then we have our break, and then second leg down. So it's a two-legged move down to the trend line. Very good bullish reaction, pushing above the EMA. I really like this trade right here. So again, two-legged move, retesting, or not retesting, but testing this trend line again. I guess you could say retesting because it's tested this slanted level, but we're testing the trend line again. This uptrend right here can also expect a new high. So uptrend, break, expecting a new high. Very good reaction off that level. I really liked that trade right there. And also the target is within this, you can kind of see there's some chop in this, or not chop, I mean resistance in this level, in this area right here. This was the highest point it's gone. There was resistance right here, and then it kind of matches right there, and then this target is all within it. So I really like that right here. And also notice how right as it reached the target, it started going sideways a bit. So that's why I like this target. It was almost perfect. So anyway, we push on up right here. Now we have these clear two-legged move up. After it reaches the measured move, very shortly, it starts to reverse back down. And then after this measured move is met and starts pushing lower, that gives us the break of this wider channel. So we have uptrend, break, and now we can expect price to attempt a new high. We start making the first attempt higher, and then break. We make this triple bottom right here, and then we start that second attempt higher. Now, when we start this push up right here, what we would really like to see is a smaller failed second entry just stemming from right here. So if we push above and get a couple legs back and get a failed second entry, that'd be great because it's holding off this support right here. It's a common pattern to get, it's a common pattern, and it's to make a new high for this big uptrend, which is clearly on the second attempt. Because let me just show something clear really quick. I just want to make sure I'm being clear. So if we get this right here, a failed second entry, we would have uptrend, break, and we can expect price for it to make a new high. So it would be expecting a new high for this right here, and also this wider uptrend, and then you would have a second entry from there. So first entry short, second entry short, failure to go along with the overall uptrend, and we still have this large measured move in play. So we'll see how price reacts to that. That's going to be interesting to see. Let me just drag that up there so we can see right when it reaches it. And so anyway, that doesn't happen. We don't get that good, reversal pattern. Or in this case, I don't really view it as a reversal pattern. Failed second entries, they are their own thing. They're failed second entries, but they're also called reversal patterns when they happen at a reversal area. And in this case here, we're not expecting price to reverse from the overall trend. We're expecting it to continue with it, but it's a reversal from this push down right here. So that's why I accidentally called it a reversal pattern. So anyway, we push on up here. We end up blasting out from that high. What could happen is, a two-legged retest of this previous level. We'll see how price reacts. It didn't really hold very many times up here, just that one bounce, then a small reaction over here, but it matched from these lows. So there's a chance that we could get a good retest and get a long off of it, but I'm probably not going to stick around long enough to see that if it does happen, but because I'm going to be done for the day after this. But anyway, we'll just see what happens. Measured move is still in play. So price could easily attempt something, a couple legs back to make a long to reach it, and then possibly reverse from there. So, we'll see. That's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.